So I'm going to talk about two of the most iconic speakers of all time. The two are the Quad ESL, also known as the Quad ESL 57, and the Klipsch Heresy, which is now in its third version. The Klipsch Heresy is still in production. The Quad ESL went out of production, I think, in 1985. But the Klipsch Heresy started in 1957. The Quad ESL started in 1957. They're very opposite speakers. I'm going to talk about their sound later. But right now I'm going to talk about, we'll start with the Heresy. Now, the Heresy was originally referred to as the Model H. And it was basically, I think Paul Klipsch saw it as a center channel speaker for, he believed in 3-channel stereo. Stereo was a new idea, 1957, and he was happily selling big Klipsch horns for corner speakers. And he needed a center speaker, and that's basically why he designed the original Model H, the Heresy. Designed it as a center speaker. I don't know how much he cared about matching the tonality of the Heresy to the Klipsch horns, but I know that it was a 3-way speaker with compression tweeter or compression mid-range, and I think the woofer side jumped around a bit. I think it was once an 8-inch woofer, 10-inch. I mean, it is now a 12-inch, and it's been a 12-inch. I think it was a 12-inch woofer even in the original Heresy. It became known as the Heresy in 1964, so it went from being the Model H to the Model Heresy in 1964. And I had always heard the story, which turns out I don't see anywhere now, that Paul called it a heresy because it was a heresy that he had to make a smaller speaker. He believed that the original Klipsch horn, which he designed and came out in 1946, was the perfect speaker. Why did he need to do another one? Oh, because people wanted a smaller speaker, so that was a heresy. But I don't think that's true. I used to tell that story, and now I feel like a fool because it's probably not true. Anyway, Heresy, I love the Heresy. It's a great little speaker. It's only 24 or something like that inches high. It's a floor standing speaker, but it's really, really low. Of course, the Quad 57 is also really low. The Quad 57 debuted in 1957, hence its name. And it stayed in production until 85. I don't think with too many changes, although, interestingly, though Paul Klipsch designed the Heresy as a center channel speaker for stereo. When the Quad 57 came out, they didn't really believe in stereo. They thought of it as basically a mono speaker, since mono was the thing. And it had to be modified. I think after they made 500 or 500 pairs of the 57s, it was modified to some degree so it worked better for stereo. They sold something like 55,000 speakers. Again, I don't know if it was pairs or individual speakers. Probably pairs. And a great, truly iconic speaker. Now, it's not my cup of tea. I've mentioned before that electrostatic speakers in general, and Quad 57 specifically, isn't my favorite speaker. I respect it a lot, and two of my closest friends own Quads 57s, and they probably always will. And I've heard them many times, and I get it. I get what people like about that speaker. Not me. But the Heresy, well, I mean, the Quad is all about transparency, tonality, purity. It's a very low distortion speaker, and it checks all those boxes. Now, the Heresy is all about dynamics and life and power from a relatively small speaker. Like Heresy 2 and 3, and I think a lot of the Heresy ones had 12-inch woofer. So though it had a big woofer, it didn't make a lot of bass because it was designed for sensitivity, not for bass extension. So, but it's a lively, warm, sweet-sounding, relatively small speaker. And I'm going to link to my review of the Heresy 3 that I did for CNET. I will link to that directly below. I will link to a video that I made where I compared a Heresy 3 to, I'm pretty sure it was a B&W 705. And I will link to a Sound and Vision piece I wrote about the Quad 57. But it's funny that they're both iconic speakers, both born in 57, and loved by audiophiles all over the world passionately for both speakers. But I think it's just interesting that they're both so opposite. The Quad is about purity, tone, da-da-da-da-da, but not terribly dynamic. Not to me a rock speaker, though some people disagree. But the Heresy is not about purity or tone, although horns tend to be low distortion speaker. It's a kick-ass fun speaker. It rocks out. I may have told the story before, but one of my friends, Gene, when I heard Heresies, I guess maybe in the late 70s or something, he used Heresies as his PA speakers because when he played in clubs, and they were also his hi-fi speakers when he played music at home. So there's not too many home speakers you could, use as PA speakers, but Heresy is one. I actually once was at a wedding, and the groom was an audiophile, and he put his Heresies on the porch facing out to his very, very, very large backyard, and just cranked the hell out of those Heresies. Again, not something you could do with too many quads, or most speakers. You couldn't handle that much power, and I would say abuse. But Heresies, no problemo. I did note in my little research before I started talking that the early the Model H's, and maybe into the Model 2, had Alnico magnets, which are a big deal for some audiophiles. They bow and scrape before the whatever. They bow before the idea of using Alnico magnets in dynamic speaker drivers. If any of you guys have experience with Quad 57s and or any generation of Klipsch Heresies or Model H's, please speak up in the comments section below. It is interesting to think in today's time where a lot of products, let's say outside the audio world, are disposable. You use them for a while, a couple of years, then there's a new model and you throw them away and then no one cares anymore. But Quad 57s, of those 55,000, I bet you a lot of them are still alive and ticking and sounding really great. Same for the Heresies. They just keep going and going and going. Great audio withstands the test of time, lasts forever, and is used, not just an old thing that is on a shelf or a car that's in a garage that no one drives. These products are used by people and enjoyed decade after decade after decade. 6 decades? Yeah, 6 decades for 57s and Heresies. That's a durable product, or durable products. I think I've said my piece. My name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. Please come back often. Share these videos. Please subscribe. When you hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you really like this sort of thing, please check out my Patreon, which can be found at patreon.com/audiophiliac. Thanks in advance for doing that.